If you love history and photography, keep watching. This is for you. So last year at Fragments, an architecture student asked me, are there photography movements like the way we have movements in architecture, like Bauhaus, the Brutalist movement? And I thought, that's interesting. Long story short, here we are. See, photography was invented in the 1830s to be used as a scientific tool. But about 20 years later, some people were like, yo, maybe this could be art too. And that's when pictorialism took over. This is the late 1800s to the early 1900s. It's lunch. Now, these photographers were heavily influenced by the popular art of that time, using techniques used in traditional art, soft focus, dramatic lighting, and even manipulating in the darkroom so that the pictures can look more like paintings. They were basically the OGs of photo manipulation, just a little old school. Photoshop what? Key figures of this movement were photographers like Julia Margaret. Throughout this video, I might be butchering many names because some of them are European. Allow it. And she was very known for her hauntingly beautiful portraits. I mean, look at this. Looking at this back then, it felt like the image was just popping out of the paper, popping out of the negative. Someone like Henry Pitch Robinson is a pioneer of composite photography, sometimes putting up to 5 negatives into one image, like this image. I'm sure you've seen some of my pictures that do a lot of this composite. Centuries ago, he was doing it first. Then came street photography. This is 1900s to 1930s. These guys were like, forget all that painterly stuff. These are cameras, not paintbrushes. We want reality as it is. Sharp focus, fine details, no manipulation. You could say that this movement laid the foundation for documentary photography, street photography, and other forms of photography as we know them right now. Key figures of this movement were people like Ansel Adams, who is an American landscape photographer. He was famous for capturing the raw, untouched American wildlife. Another one is Paul Strand, who was actually a former pictorialist, but then he was like, nah, photography is not about that illusion, it's about realism. He had an interesting way of saying that abstraction and realism can exist in the same picture. Then now, we get to the surrealists. These ones were from 1920s to 1940s, and them, they were like, enough with all that realistic stuff. We are about creating things out of the subconscious. We are creating fantasy, we are creating dream worlds. This movement gave us photo montages, collages, conceptual photography that often felt like you're stepping into somebody's subconscious. Key figures of this movement are photographers like Dora Maar. Now, Dora is often remembered as Picasso's muse and mistress, which is honestly a wrong way to look at her, considering her surrealism was ridiculous. We also have Man Ray, who was a painter, sculptor, filmmaker. He did it all. He was heavily inspired by Cubism and ended up finding a lot of success as a fashion photographer, making images such as this. Some have said he used fashion photography as a way to make money to inject into his surrealist art. He just like me. The thing is, sometimes I look at these pictures and I can imagine, like I can't start to imagine what these people were thinking about, considering all of this you were shooting with film. You have to manipulate this stuff in the darkroom. I think those were wild times. I think those were very interesting times. Let's proceed. Now, documentary photography has been around from the 1930s till today, to this day. And this is all about capturing real-life situations. Though, let's be real. See what I did there? We all know reality is often shaped by the perspective of the photographer. The aim of documentary photography, among other things, has always been to expose hidden truths, show injustices, and even historical moments, which is why if you manipulate the images in documentary photography, then you alter reality, you alter the story. So unlike the other surrealists in documentary, you capture things as they are. Key figures of this movement were people like Dorothea Lange. She is famous for documenting the Great Depression in America. Her images focused on displaced farmers and immigrants, as you can see from these images, which are hauntingly beautiful. Another photographer is August Sander. He dedicated decades of his life to capturing unfiltered portraits of the general German populace. He was a hater of like overly stylized or staged photography. So studio for who? That was a long video. If you made it this far, please drop a fire emoji in the comments. Let me know that you're here. I hope you enjoyed this video. But wait, If you're like me, you're probably wondering, how come I've not seen any Africans named as part of this movement? And this is the same thing that I discovered while doing research for this video. I decided to take another dive into African photographers that knowingly or unknowingly were part of these major movements in photography. So follow me so that you don't miss that. But for now, thanks for watching. Whew.